Have you ever felt like you were living in two different movies at the same time? One where you remember clear conversations and promises, and another where those same conversations apparently never happened according to your partner. How avoidants twist your reality and make you doubt yourself isn't just about poor communication or different perspectives. It's about a systematic dismantling of your ability to trust your own experiences. When someone with avoidant attachment begins to distort your reality, they don't use obvious manipulation tactics that you can easily identify. Instead, they use their natural emotional distance and discomfort with intimacy as tools to make you question everything you thought you knew about your relationship and yourself. The process is so subtle and gradual that you might not realize it's happening until you find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do and doubting memories you know were real. Understanding how this reality distortion works will help you recognize the early warning signs before they can take root in your mind and heart. The insights you'll discover today will explain why your usual confidence seems to evaporate around certain people, why you find yourself constantly second-guessing your own perceptions, and why conversations with avoidant partners can leave you feeling like you're losing your grip on reality itself. This knowledge isn't just about understanding relationship dynamics, it's about protecting your mental health and maintaining your connection to your own truth. The patterns revealed here will show you how avoidant individuals use their emotional limitations not just to protect themselves, but to control and confuse those who love them. Most importantly, you'll learn to distinguish between someone who genuinely struggles with emotional expression and someone who weaponizes that struggle to maintain power in relationships. If you want to better understand someone's attachment style, see the link in the description to one of the most popular books on attachment theory. Picture a rainy Thursday evening in Paris, where Emily Cooper from Emily in Paris sat in her small apartment, staring at a journal she had started keeping 3 months ago. What began as a way to process her complicated relationship had become something much more important, a lifeline to her own sanity. For the past year, she had been dating someone who seemed perfect on paper, intelligent, successful, and charmingly mysterious. But something strange had been happening to her memory and her confidence. Conversations that felt crystal clear in the moment would somehow become fuzzy and uncertain by the next day, especially when her partner would reference them later with completely different details. The journal entries told a disturbing story. Emily had written about a conversation where he had enthusiastically agreed to meet her parents when they visited Paris. She remembered his exact words, "I'd love to meet them. Family is important." But 2 weeks later, when she mentioned the dinner plans, he looked at her with genuine confusion and said, "Emily, we talked about this. I told you I wasn't ready for that step yet. You said you understood." The certainty in his voice made her question her own memory, but her journal entry from that night told a different story entirely. This pattern had been repeating for months. Plans they had made together would somehow transform into suggestions she had misunderstood. Promises he had made would become things she had imagined or exaggerated. Most confusingly, emotional conversations where he had opened up about his feelings would later be referenced as times when she had pressured him to share more than he was comfortable with. Each incident alone seemed like a simple miscommunication, but together they painted a picture that made Emily feel like she was slowly losing her mind. The turning point came during what should have been a romantic weekend getaway. Emily had planned the trip based on a conversation where he had mentioned wanting to explore the French countryside together. She had booked the hotel, arranged time off work, and was excited about their first real vacation together. But when she brought up the final details, his response chilled her to the bone. "Emily, I never agreed to this trip. You planned this without asking me, and now you're trying to make it seem like it was my idea. This is exactly the kind of pressure that makes me want to pull away." The words hit her like ice water. She remembered their conversation so clearly, his enthusiasm about escaping the city, his suggestions about which regions to visit, his smile when she said she would handle the planning. But standing there in her apartment, looking at his confused and slightly irritated expression, she began to doubt everything. Had she really misunderstood so completely? Was she really the kind of person who would plan an entire trip based on a conversation that apparently never happened? What made this particularly devastating was his delivery. Unlike partners who might get angry or defensive when confronted with different memories, his response was always calm and slightly concerned. He would listen to her version of events with what appeared to be patient attention, then gently correct her with phrases like, "I can see how you might have interpreted it that way, but that's not what happened." His tone suggested that he was helping her see reality more clearly, not contradicting her experiences. The most insidious part was how he used her emotional responses against her. When Emily became upset about these discrepancies, he would become even more emotionally distant, saying things like, "This is exactly why I have trouble opening up to you. When you get emotional like this, it makes me want to shut down." Her natural reaction to his reality distortion became evidence that she was too intense, too demanding, too much. Her need for clarity about what had actually been said became clinginess. Her confusion about his mixed messages became instability. The breakthrough came when Emily decided to test her own sanity by recording one of their conversations on her phone. During a dinner discussion about moving in together, he seemed enthusiastic and engaged, talking about furniture arrangements and sharing household responsibilities. His body language was open, his tone was warm, and he initiated much of the conversation about their future living situation. But 3 days later, when Emily brought up apartment hunting, he claimed they had never discussed moving in together at all. When she played back the recording, the truth was undeniable. Not only had they discussed moving in together, but he had been the one pushing the timeline, suggesting they should start looking for places immediately. Listening to his voice on the recording, excited, planning, fully engaged, compared to his current claims that she had misunderstood a hypothetical conversation, was like watching two different people. The recording revealed something even more disturbing. His ability to completely rewrite history wasn't accidental or due to poor memory. It was deliberate and systematic. The final revelation came when Emily realized that his pattern of reality distortion always served the same purpose, maintaining distance while keeping her constantly off balance. When she wanted more commitment, their conversations about the future would retroactively become just theoretical discussions. When she needed emotional support, his previous expressions of care would transform into things she had read too much into. When she tried to address problems in their relationship, her concerns would be reframed as evidence of her tendency to create drama where none existed. This wasn't someone with a poor memory or different communication style. This was someone who used his avoidant attachment patterns as a sophisticated system for controlling reality itself. His emotional distance wasn't just a defense mechanism, it was a weapon that made his reality distortion seem reasonable and her emotional responses seem excessive. The very traits that made her want to help him with his attachment issues were being used to slowly erode her connection to her own truth. The most shocking discovery was how perfectly his system worked. By remaining emotionally detached while systematically contradicting her experiences, he had created a dynamic where questioning him felt like attacking someone who was just trying to protect himself. Her attempts to seek clarity were reframed as evidence that she was too needy. Her emotional investment in their relationship became proof that she was unstable. Her memory of their shared experiences became delusions that she needed to overcome to be worthy of his love. Protecting yourself from reality distortion by avoidant partners requires understanding the specific techniques they use and developing strategies to maintain your connection to your own truth. First, recognize that avoidant individuals don't distort reality through dramatic confrontations or obvious lies. Instead, they use their emotional distance and discomfort with intimacy to create plausible alternative versions of events that always minimize their emotional involvement or commitment. When they claim that a conversation about moving in together was just hypothetical thinking out loud, they're using their avoidant tendencies to escape accountability while making you seem like the one who misunderstood. Second, start documenting important conversations and agreements, not because you plan to use them as evidence in arguments, but because maintaining a record helps you stay connected to your own experiences. When someone consistently remembers conversations differently in ways that always reduce their responsibility or emotional involvement, you're not dealing with simple miscommunication, you're dealing with systematic reality distortion. Keep a private journal where you record not just what was said, but how you felt during the conversation and what your gut instinct told you about their sincerity and engagement. Third, pay attention to patterns in how they rewrite history. Avoidant partners who engage in reality distortion will typically transform any conversation that suggests emotional investment or future commitment into something more casual or hypothetical. Promises become suggestions, agreements become misunderstandings, and your emotional responses to their behavior become evidence of your instability. If you notice that your partner's version of events consistently minimizes their emotional involvement while maximizing your responsibility for relationship problems, you're dealing with someone who is deliberately distorting reality to maintain control. Fourth, trust your emotional and physical responses to conversations, especially in the moment they're happening. Your body and intuition often pick up on sincerity and genuine engagement more accurately than your conscious mind can process. If someone seemed excited and committed during a conversation, but later claims they were just being polite or hypothetical, trust your initial read of their energy and engagement. Avoidant partners who distort reality rely on your tendency to doubt your own perceptions, especially when they present their alternative version with calm certainty. Most importantly, understand that healthy relationships don't require you to constantly question your own memory and perceptions. If you find yourself regularly confused about what was actually agreed upon or discussed, you're likely dealing with someone who is creating that confusion intentionally. The goal of reality distortion isn't just to avoid commitment, it's to keep you constantly off balance and doubting yourself so that you're less likely to challenge their behavior or demand consistency from them. Remember that you don't need to prove your version of events to maintain your sanity. Your job isn't to convince someone who is deliberately distorting reality that your memory is accurate. Your job is to recognize the pattern and protect yourself from further manipulation. When someone consistently makes you feel crazy for remembering shared experiences, the problem isn't your memory. It's their willingness to sacrifice your mental health to maintain their comfort zone. The ability to twist reality and make you doubt yourself is one of the most sophisticated and damaging tools in the avoidance arsenal because it attacks the foundation of your ability to trust yourself. Unlike obvious manipulation that you can identify and resist, reality distortion by avoidant partners feels reasonable and measured. They're not screaming at you or making dramatic accusations. They're calmly and quietly erasing your experiences while positioning themselves as the rational, emotionally stable person in the relationship. This dynamic is particularly devastating because it exploits your natural desire to trust and connect with someone you love. Your willingness to question your own perceptions in service of maintaining harmony becomes the very tool they use to control you. Your empathy for their attachment struggles becomes the reason you accept their distortion of your shared reality. Your investment in making the relationship work becomes evidence that you're too emotional and unstable to be trusted with accurate perceptions of what actually happens between you. The path to protecting yourself starts with understanding that this isn't about attachment issues or communication styles. It's about power and control. When someone consistently rewrites history in ways that minimize their responsibility and maximize your confusion, they're not struggling with intimacy. They're actively working to maintain dominance in the relationship. Your role becomes that of the unreliable narrator of your own life, while they position themselves as the calm voice of reason who can help you see reality more clearly. Healing from this kind of psychological manipulation requires time, patience, and often professional support to rebuild your trust in your own perceptions and experiences. But recovery is absolutely possible, and your ability to recognize these patterns now will protect you from similar dynamics in the future. You are not too sensitive for having emotional responses to manipulation. You are not unstable for wanting consistency and honesty in your relationships. You are not delusional for remembering conversations that actually happened. Your reality matters. Your memory matters. Your emotional responses to being manipulated are valid and important signals that something is wrong. Trust yourself. Document your experiences, and remember that healthy love doesn't require you to constantly question your own sanity. The confusion you feel isn't a sign of your mental instability. It's your psychological immune system fighting against someone who is trying to colonize your sense of reality. Listen to that confusion, honor it, and let it guide you toward relationships that enhance your connection to yourself, rather than systematically destroying it. Once they shake your sense of reality, avoidants turn to control. Watch the next video. The subtle power plays avoidants use to control you.